different break as it is in a winner breaks format. Each player will get their chance, 5 racks to break it.
In a sense, and this had not occurred to me before, John, as we see the break-off from Bustamante and what a break he possesses, it's almost an advantage to lose the break because then you're going to be breaking in rack number 10.
Absolutely.
And in every single match we've seen to date, the 10th rack has been significant. There have been no one-sided matches in this year's event. Interesting. So here's Francisco with a ball knocked in off the break now, eyeing up this long one.
Yeah, Francisco taking 2 points from his first match against the defending champion Rodney Morris. But he did look a little out of sorts, even though he managed to secure those 2 points with a 6-4 lead. And Steve, of course, managed to get a point from his 5-all draw against Niels Fayen.
Well, Steve just looking at the escape options here on this one ball, but Francisco has really put the handcuffs on him here. There's nothing easy about this. You look at the long cushion. Ideally, the players like to be able to strike a cushion to be sending the object ball and the cue ball in opposite directions. Well, that's not going to be the case here. So we'll be trusting a little to luck, even if he does contact that one ball.
He's trying to play with the little left-hand side so to check the cue ball back, take it to the right-hand side of both the 7 and the 8, and that's a good contact, but he's lost the cue ball. A little unlucky there.
Couldn't possibly have legislated for that. He found the path out of that trap about as well as could have been expected, and unfortunately for Steve, that's the second cue ball he's seen drop into a pocket. This one may well prove a little bit more.
Looks like Francisco's going straight for the out here because he's got ball in hand, 1-9. Not bothering to run out the rack. A little surprised at this decision from Francisco, but.
Well, that 9 wiped its feet before departing the playing surface. 1-0 just like that to Bustamante. But Steve Davis, as I said, you know, the second cue ball finding its way to the bottom of the pocket. Decisive. One more look at that combination. And thankfully for Francisco, it went in.
I think if Francisco was at the top of his game, he wouldn't have taken that on. He would have been confident in his own abilities of running the rack. But he isn't at his top of his game. He hasn't been for a couple of seasons now. And that's why he'd look for the quick out.
First rack secured. Francisco will be watching Steve Davis break in rack number 2. And there's a young man watching with great interest. His buddy Francisco Bustamante out there. That's the reigning world champion Alex Pagulayan. And Steve still from that. Look at the 9. Very close to the side pocket, but that 7 has come back to haunt Steve, and that's assuming it doesn't offer a combination into that corner pocket.
I don't think the combination's straight in, but there's a little gap in between the 1 and the 7. 9 going close to the side bag. But more immediately, it is this 1-7 that Steve's looking at. I think he can make the combination. The problem will be making sure he keeps position on the yellow 1 after.
Yeah, there's plenty of room between the 1 and the 7 there for him to be able to alter the path of that 7. Just about controlling position to the 1. You know something, John? That looks pretty good. I think that 1's got a little more than half a pocket into that side. And the natural angle is going to take the cue ball down into the area of the table. Steve needs to attack the 3. In his mind right now, he's just going through the motions, visualizing a positive result. Or is he going for the 9 right here? Well, does he take a the unconventional path to the victory line as Bustamante did in the opening rack. It looks like it. This is a billiard onto the 9. And just like that, 2 racks go up. Steve's ready for it. The break in rack number 4. He's going to have nothing on the 1 ball here.
Yeah, it's another cut break from Steve there, taking the cue ball into the right-hand side of the 1 off of the break and leaving the cue ball too far down the table for good shape on the 1.
Year 7 of this event. Steve has contested each and every one.
He's never won this tournament though. Has been a runner-up. Neither of these 2 players actually won this tournament before. Both players come here this year with their avowed intent to change that. Good safety from Steve, putting the pressure on Francisco.
He continues to amaze all the pool players that have seen him progress over the years playing this game, because it's definitely not his forte. As I said, he just enjoys the challenge that much. And Francisco Bustamante, I asked him, I said, who's your next match against Francisco? He says, Stevie Wonder. And now he's going to have to plot an escape path.
That's a very interesting escape path he's looking there. Off of the right-hand side cushion and then to the in between the 3 and the 4, the red 3. No, he's changed his mind. That looked very precarious today.
And here he's got to play bottom into the cue ball. Watch it curve. He had to get past the 3. And with ball in hand, this is a big opportunity for Steve Davis to get back to 2-2. Another look at it.
Just wanted to slide by the left-hand side of the red 3.
Everything's in the open for Steve right now. That good safety has forged the opportunity that presents itself, so it's just down to Steve to run out the rack. And that's not the best positional shot that he's going to play in this match. The natural angle has taken the cue ball away from the pink 4. Wanted to be a little straighter on the 3.
Yeah, I think all it might mean is that he will be stretching from the bottom of the table for his next shot on the pink 4 though. Unless he elects to take the cue ball around the table, I can't imagine him doing that. I think he will just draw the cue ball up towards the centre of the table.
Looks like he's just going to bump it off the cushion, keep the cue ball in the middle, John. As you suggested, he's taken your advice. Keep it simple.
Question is whether the orange 5 after this passes by into the bottom right-hand corner.
If he does want to try and get behind that 5, assuming it doesn't go by the 8 into the corner, he's going to have to force this off 2 cushions with a little left-hand spin on that cue ball. And with the dots on it, you're going to be able to see exactly what Steve's doing.
Looked to me like he's almost lining up the combination if it... he's gone, yeah, he's tried to get in behind. It's a sensible thing to do. And even though it won't go to the top left-hand bag, he shouldn't have any problems taking it up the cushion towards the top right. And nice position for the green 6.
You really wouldn't expect anything in the open to be missed by Davis. if the game turns into one of that nature, there are few in this event or in the world, in fact, that are going to step to the table and knock in open balls any better than Steve. If he's got problems, it comes in the area of the break, and he'll be the first to admit it. And this 9 to split the first 4 racks. 2-2 here in Warsaw. Both players winning breaks and slotting score sheet or making use of their breaks, certainly, and keeping the scorer busy.
So the first 4 racks all going with break in this second set of group games between Francisco Bustamante and Steve Davis. This 5th rack will be Francisco Bustamante up to break. It'll be interesting to see if he keeps this slightly softer break than he employed in the first match against Rodney Morris, which he won 6-4. His break was about the best part of his game, I thought, in his first match, so I'm a little surprised to see him take a bit of pace off.
Hit that one a bit harder.
That's much more like it. Back to a harder break for Francisco Bustamante, and he controlled the cue ball a lot better there. He's unlucky to get a kick on it, but he's come out with reasonable shape. Here you can see, watch the cue ball stop in the centre of the table, but then get a kick from the brown 7. And in his previous 2 breaks, when he had taken a little bit of pace off, he did have trouble controlling the cue ball. Often it's the other way round. Players take pace off to if they're having trouble controlling the cue ball, but Francisco is so used to employing so much power on the break. He's back to his normal self.
Three up the top left and just clear the 8. That pink 4 is available to the bottom right corner as we look. Boy, he thought he missed that one, and so did I.
Yeah, certainly pinching the pocket a little there. A couple of choices on this. You can either draw the cue ball back off of the side rail or take it around with side. That's what he's decided to do. Nicely now in shape. Looking to keep this run going. First 4 racks all going with break. This will make it the 5th.
Francisco has been winning his racks a lot easier than has Davis. Steve's been made to fight a little bit with a couple good safety exchanges, whereas Bustamante has just got up and broke and cleared.
Yeah, Steve's never been out of control though so far, but he has, as you say, even if you've got your opponent at the table in a tight safety, there is always that chance that they might get out of it and get a bit of luck. A little loose from Francisco there. Positional play, saw that a couple of times in his first game.
Yes, and these are the type of shots that if you overcut them and catch that near point, it can stay on the table.
Just as you said there, Jim, but he managed to find its way in the corner of the pocket.
And 3-2 the score. And Steve Davis readies himself for the break here in rack 6. And one of the few dry breaks we've seen.
Yeah, he really seemed to slip off of that cue ball on that break. I'm not sure he struck it cleanly. Lost a lot of power. One thing that is going for him is that I don't know that Francisco can cut this 1 into the bottom left-hand bag. And also that the balls haven't spread out that well either, so there is work to be done in this rack the eventual winner. That's a very nicely played safety from Francisco.
But that was a
Wasn't
lot
easy.
of left-hand spin, John, to kill the cue ball off those two cushions. And you can see that he's just melted it right in behind that 5.
A lot of danger of the double kiss on this shot as well, so very little room to manoeuvre. Beautifully played. So you'd have to now say that the advantage in this rack has moved to Francisco. With the one being so far away from all the other balls, it'll be very difficult for Steve to get out of this and leave it safe.
Raising the back end of the cue.
He's just going to try and drop on it, but
It's
he's
going to be
come
ball
to
in
the-
hand for Bustamante. And just having a quick look at the positioning of the remaining colors. This is going to be a huge miss from Davis. It was never going to be easy. But everything is in the open for Francisco here. And so the first real opportunity falls to Bustamante.
He's going to try and take this with a lot of top right-hand side, taking the cue ball off of 3 cushions and down just above the orange 5 to leave the 2 into the corner pocket. Here you see it coming down by the orange 5, and didn't really want to be hampered by cueing wise, but that's a pretty good position. That's where he wanted it. Now he can just drop the 2 in and land on both the 3 and the 4 all into the same bag.
Perfect angle on the 3. Leave himself a nice angle just where he's showing you on the 4, that line. To go over the other side of the table for the 5.
Yeah, the balls weren't spread out terribly nicely, but it was all about the position on that blue 2. If he didn't have the nice position, he could have had a lot of trouble with this rack, but got himself into first class shape, and that really opened it up. So the first real chance of a break in this match, already leading 3 racks to 2, Francisco. You see behind the back shot, employed in an earlier match by Alex Pagaline.
And you hear a little finger snapping. That's a form of applause here in Warsaw. This has been a solid performance from Francisco. Mistakes have been at a premium.
Yeah, it's just a dry break from Steve that opened up this chance. Great safety from Francisco after that break. And Steve can now see himself falling into a 4-2 deficit.
And what's worse is he knows that Bustamante is going to be breaking off in rack number 7 yet to come. So 4-2 confirmed. And Francisco can go get his break cue as a few fans applaud that effort. So Francisco with friends, and actually the lady over his left shoulder, and beside her Dee, and they have actually been looking after both Alex and Francisco as far as feeding them goes. They've been cooking some native meals for both of the guys, letting them feel as much as at home as they possibly can. How handy is that? Traveling with your cooks. They actually live here in Warsaw. They've been here for about 4 years now. But they love it when the traveling roadshow comes to town. Got one off the break again, but I don't know whether or not he can see enough of that one to be able to pocket it into the corner. It's very close. Yeah. Another look at it. The wing ball departs the table.
I think he might be able to with a lot of right-hand side if he plays it slowly. Either that or a safety.
Well, referee Nigel Reese is right on top of him.
He's okay.
Very close.
That was a good hit. Certainly contacting the yellow one first.
You can almost tell it was a good hit just by where the cue ball is finished. Now the 2 on to the 4.
Yeah, playing that on purpose, you'll see a lot of players try and just take the 2 onto the 4 and leave the 2 over the pocket. But the problem with that would be the positional of the position play of the next shot. So Francisco quite deliberately putting both of those balls in the same shot. Apart from slightly wayward, softer breaks from Francisco at the beginning of this match, I think he's looked a lot better and a lot more comfortable than he did in his first match, which of course he also won. That's quite ominous news for the rest of the players in this tournament.
This is a vital rack too for Francisco. Once you get to 5, you know you're assured of at least 1 point. And he's got 3 racks remaining. If he wins any one of those 3, you'll have the maximum too. So getting to 5 is the first order of business for these players. And then they worry about the win. And Francisco is going to be looking at this 9 for a 5-2 advantage. And there you go, 5-2 the score here in Warsaw. It's the 2004 World Pool League. But we talked earlier about a difference in their cueing actions. Have a look at this.
This is particularly the break we're looking at here. You can see the power that you'll see from Francisco. And a far more controlled shot from Steve. But unfortunately, Steve has lost a little bit of the control in his last 2 breaks. Almost looks like he was slicing through the side of the cue ball and not connecting properly with it. He does look disturbed by that. Maybe he's thinking about what he's going to do for this break.
Well, he's got 2 breaks out of the remaining 3 racks. So if he can...
changing sides here.
If he can control the racks he's breaking, he's still got a chance to grab 1 point.
So a complete change from Steve. It was a safer break. There's no doubt about that. More control.
That's
ball
not
down.
Too bad.
Yeah, and he's come out okay.
Again, just nailing that 1 on the face and pulling the cue ball to the side cushion. You can see it's spinning, so he's still not hitting the center.
No, he'd still like that cue ball to be just about a foot to 18 inches further up the table each time off the break.
And he just pinched that a little more than he intended. He wanted this angle on the 2, but he didn't want to be bridging over the 7. The angle, the natural angle here, is going to bring the cue ball down for the 3, so he can concentrate 100% on knocking this 2 in.
Just doing everything he can on his own breaks, making sure that Francisco has to work for this victory.
I believe Steve's success over the years in snooker and anything that He accepts the challenge in. Not only does he measure his ability very well, but he assesses situations very quickly and weighs up whether the risks outweigh the rewards and vice versa. And
he's a little worried on this shot of where the cue ball's going. He's got that nice angle on the green 6, but unfortunately it will be taking the cue ball towards the 9. He wants to avoid any contact with the 9 to get the cue ball back up the table for the brown 7. He'll be very happy with the outcome on that shot.
Couldn't really have played that shot any better. Watch this. Just a narrow space between that 9 ball and the side cushion, and Steve found it.
Well, I could have done becoming a little bit more, but no problem in just sending the cue ball down to the bottom cushion, back up into the centre of the table for the 9.
Well, he's done his part in this rack. And the 9 gets him back to 5-3. Francisco will be breaking in rack. So, boy, wouldn't it put Bustamante in the driver's seat if he won this match.
Rack 9, Francisco Bustamante.
And likewise for Steve Davis. It would really hurt his chances of surviving through to the semifinals.
Well, there's another beautifully controlled break from Francisco there. Just a single ball down, but he's got good shape on the yellow one.
And just doesn't look like missing. His break is formidable. And every time, the balls have been obeying his commands.
Does have a bit of work to do, though, to secure these 2 points.
Tougher shot really here, John, is the next one.
Exactly.
From the 1 to the 2. If he gets position to the 2, the 4 is in the same end of the table.
I think he can get shape on the 2 just by stopping the white where the 1 is, but of course then with that angle he's taking the cue ball away from the 4 for the next shot. That's where he's looking at, but it's going to make the 4 very difficult.
Yeah, that's what he's weighing up in his mind right now. And I'd be surprised if he played it that way. But again, what are his options?
You could try and run it through with a lot of top right-hand side to take the 2 into the same pocket as the 1. I think that's what he tried, but he didn't quite. Well, he slid by the other side of the 2, and he's actually in good shape now. That's not quite sure that's what he meant to do. But
well, if he knocks this in with the rest,
then really that is problem over.
But he's not the best rest player in the world. And he's got a nice angle on this 4 to bring the cue ball right up between the 7 and the 8. And I think Steve knows, as do we, that his fate may be sealed.
It was all just down to one dry break from Steve this match. It's the only rack that went against break. You'll know how important that was. I think he'll be fairly pleased with the way he's played other than that. But no mistakes so far from Francisco.
He's looked as good as anybody here, though, in the early stages of this year's event.
Yeah, I think as long as he runs out these next 3 balls, then this will have been the best performance we've seen so far.
Just 8 and 9 to get over the line.
Well, he would have liked to have been straight on this 8. into the side pocket. That would have left him a very easy 9 into the bottom right. As it is, the cue ball will be travelling further up the table and might be forced into taking 9 into the side pocket. So just this 9 to secure the 2 points.
And it's a full 2 points for Bustamante. 6-3 the lead now, and he can't be overhauled in 10. So Francisco, 4 points in 2 matches, and he really is in the driver's seat in this year's event. Francisco Bustamante just watches Steve Davis now. His day's work complete here in Warsaw, maximum point value. And Steve just trying to secure the last rack win just in case it ends up being a rack count back in the event of a tie.
Steve Davis to break. Train 3 racks to 6.
It's so very difficult in this situation to try and keep the concentration, but as you mentioned there, Jim, he really must try that. He's lost the cue ball again, unfortunately. Possibly a bit of disappointment coming into that break. But as you say, these extra racks could become so important should it be close at the end of the group stages.
The big shot here.
Yeah, it's looking like taking the yellow 1 into the left-hand side pocket there, which the only reason you would take that on, it's a much more difficult pot, but purely to make the position to the blue 2 as easy as possible.
I think he's going to try and develop the 2 here. It doesn't go into either corner, so he's going to play the 2 onto the 3 combination shot. The angle that he left himself, it almost looked like he was going to try and nudge the 2 into the open.
Yeah, the real danger here is where the 2 goes after the combination. Wants to keep it right where the 3 is now. Playing it off the...
He's played it off the 9. Well, he threw me a curve, John. I didn't see that.
Absolutely.
And he made it look like it was simple, didn't he?
Much better shot to take on than the 2-3 combination. That way, of course, he's absolutely assured of position on the red 3. Very intelligent shot from Francisco, who really does look like he's coming back into a bit of form.
I spoke with him just briefly before the event started out, and he was happy with the way he's playing. He says he's comfortable, he's confident. He's just not getting the results that we're all accustomed to seeing from him in tournaments, because it's not easy being a heavy favorite when you play in a lot of matches, and he's used to that. The 1 good win, and it could well come in the form of the 2004 Whirlpool League, and he could be back on song and sending a message to the rest of the pool-playing world. He won't be doing it with shots like that.
Yeah, just playing that ball far too straight. Took the cue ball then into the 7 and left himself with no shot.
Watch the cue ball. He's trying to keep it behind that 9. Got the 7 ball where he intended.
Almost more important to Steve than Francisco this final rack. You feel that with already 4 points in the bag for Francisco, he'll be in a heavy favourite's position of taking one of the top 4 places, but Steve, with only 1 point from 2 games, could well be fighting it off on that borderline.
Oh, what a shot from Davis there. Look at that.
Brilliant cueing, excellent pot from Steve. Just would have liked a little bit more run on the cue ball. You can see his face. Fantastic cut on the 7.
He hasn't lost his eyes in over 40 years. He just ended up a little short of where he would have ideally liked to finish on this 8. But he can still pick last year's paint off a ball. I've seen him play a lot of shots similar to that one, even on a snooker table.
If he doesn't fancy the thin cut on the 8 here, he could elect to take a bank. I think he's going for the cut. Two superb fine cut shots from Steve Davis. Just an easy 9. He takes the final rack, but it's Francisco Bustamante who takes the honours. A 6-4 result, takes the 2 points.